Hello there, and welcome back to another quiet night of drifting through the stars. Tonight, we are exploring the birth of distance and the ancient cradle of the stars. Before we begin, let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Let them soften now, like snow settling slowly on a quiet field. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it, just for a moment, in the warm dark behind your ribs, and let it go, slower than you think you need to. Feel the mattress beneath you, holding all of your weight. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore tonight. Your eyelids are heavy now, heavier than they have been all day. There is nowhere else you need to be, and nothing left to solve before morning. Tonight, we are not going to talk about explosions. We are going to talk, instead, about stretching. For a long time, people imagined the beginning of everything as a bomb going off inside an empty room. Something loud, something violent, matter hurled outward into waiting darkness. But that is not quite right, and the true picture is far gentler than that. There was no room waiting to receive it, and no outside for it to expand into. The room itself is the thing that grew. Space did not move through space. Space simply became more of itself, everywhere, all at once. Imagine a single breath, drawn out slowly across billions of years, every point drifting gently away from every other point, without any center and without any edge. No stage, no empty theater waiting in the dark for the show to begin, just a soft, endless unfolding, the way a held breath finally, quietly releases. And it is still happening now, in this very room where you are lying, so slowly that you will never feel it, like the hour hand of a clock you can never quite catch moving. Every galaxy, drifting a little further from every other galaxy, not because it is racing away, but because the space between them is patiently, endlessly growing. Deep silence. Now let your attention drift inward, toward your own chest, rising and falling. The iron carried quietly inside your blood was not made here, on this small blue world. It was forged somewhere else entirely, somewhere far older than any of us, older than the sun itself, deep inside the heart of a dying star, under pressure heavier than anything we could ever build. Plain and simple elements were pressed together into something new. Calcium, iron, oxygen, the quiet, hidden architecture of you. When that ancient star could hold itself together no longer, it did not. It scattered its treasury across the dark in one last slow exhale. And some of that scattered light gathered again over millions of quiet years. It cooled and clumped and became dust drifting between the stars. And some of that dust became rivers and mountains and ribs and the soft, steady rhythm of your breathing right now tonight. So when you rest your hand over your heart, you're not touching something separate from the universe. You are touching the universe, folded gently into a shape that can rest and dream and listen to a voice like this one. Let that settle over you now, warm and slow, like a blanket pulled up to your chin. You were not placed into the cosmos from somewhere else. You were poured out of it, quietly, patiently, over billions of years. Deep silence. Rest here for a while inside that thought, weightless, unhurried, and entirely safe. There is nothing you need to understand right now, only something you're allowed to feel. Let your breathing slow even further, matching the same unhurried pace as the universe itself. No rush, no deadline, just a long, quiet expansion, the way a night should feel. And if your mind begins to drift now, that is exactly where it belongs. Drifting is not losing focus. Drifting is simply following the same gentle pull that moves galaxies apart. You do not need to understand any of this to feel small and safe and held by something far larger than yourself. You only need to let your body grow heavy and let the thoughts settle like dust finally coming to rest after a long, slow fall through the dark. And somewhere out past the edge of what we can easily see, past the last familiar starlight, there drift other worlds entirely alone, worlds with no sun to call their own. No golden morning waiting for them, wandering quietly, endlessly, through the dark. Segment 2. Wandering worlds in the deep dark. Still drifting, still a part of the stars, we let that feeling carry us further outward now, past the warmth of any single sun. Out here, the light grows thinner, the dark grows wider and colder and older. Let your own breathing grow just as wide, just as unhurried, matching the vast slowness of the space around us. There is room out here for every worry you carried into tonight to simply drift apart, the way light itself grows fainter with distance. Kirkle's a sun. Some worlds move alone, untethered, carrying no daylight with them at all. For a wanderer like this, there is no sunrise. There never has been. Only a slow, silent gliding through a black and endless field. No season ever turns for a world like this. No spring waits at the far end of a long winter, because there was never any warmth to lose in the first place. And yet it still moves, patiently, following the same quiet laws that guide every star and every stone. Nothing here is lost. It has simply found a different kind of stillness. Deep silence. If you could stand on such a world and look upward, the sky would never change. The same far, frozen stars would hang there, fixed and patient, night after night, after night. No dawn would ever soften that darkness. No dusk would ever fall, because none of it would ever lift in the first place. But these worlds were not always so alone. Once, long ago, many of them were born inside the crowded warmth of a young solar system. They formed close to brothers and sisters, other infant worlds, all circling the same new star together. But young systems are not always gentle places. Gravity can be a quiet, patient sculptor, or it can be something far more violent. A larger neighbor drifting too close, an old pull tightening at just the wrong moment, and one small world would be flung outward, faster than starlight could ever comfort it. Cast out of its own home, out past the edge of everything familiar, sent drifting into a silence with no end and no return. There was no violence in the leaving, not the way we imagine violence, only a long, slow release, like a hand finally letting go of something it had held too tightly. And so it began its exile. Not punished, not abandoned, simply set free into a darkness far larger than the home it once knew. Deep silence. And yet even in exile, such a world is rarely truly dead. Deep beneath its frozen shell, something old still moves. The same restless heat left over from its birth, still glowing faintly, still refusing to fully fade. And further down, quiet radioactive decay works on, slow and patient, a low fire that no darkness can fully extinguish, under a crust of thick ice, or beneath a heavy blanket of endless cloud that warmth can hold on. It can be enough sometimes to keep an ocean liquid, a hidden sea, sealed away from every star that has never once felt sunlight touch its surface. No waves catch the glint of any sun out there, and no shore ever waits to receive them. Only dark water, moving in slow, patient circles beneath an unbroken ceiling of ice. No tide answers to a distant moon out there, no light filters down to say good morning, just water, moving slowly in the dark, keeping its own quiet secret. Think of that for a moment. An entire ocean, vast and patient, that no eye has ever seen and no light has ever touched. It does not need to be seen to be real. It simply continues, quietly, in the dark. Somewhere among the countless stars, there may be more of these silent wanderers than there are worlds like ours, each one carrying an entire ocean, an entire story that no one will ever see. Let that thought rest with you now, heavy and warm, like a stone pulled slowly from deep water. You do not need to be seen or understood to be real, and to be whole, and to be enough, just as you are tonight. And it is enough, simply, that a world like this exists, drifting on, alone but never quite empty, following its slow path deeper into the dark, toward the old and dying hearts of stars far greater than our own. Segment 3. The Great Cosmic Furnaces. And far above those silent, starless oceans, other worlds burn instead of drift, holding their own kind of fire against the dark. A star is not simply a ball of light. It is a long and delicate agreement, held quietly for billions of years. Gravity pulls inward, patient and relentless, always trying to collapse the star down into itself. And deep in its core, a nuclear furnace pushes back outward, just as patient, just as relentless. Two enormous forces locked together in the same quiet handshake, night after night, for longer than we can easily imagine. For most of a star's life, these two forces meet in perfect, silent balance. Neither one winning, neither one losing, only a long and steady breathing that lasts for eons. It is easy to think of a star as simply burning, but it is truer to think of it as holding its breath, very slowly for billions of years. Deep silence, but that furnace does not burn forever. Hydrogen becomes helium, and helium becomes heavier things still, each stage a little harder than the last. Eventually, in the very largest stars, the fire begins forging iron deep within its heart. And here, something changes completely. Iron does not give energy back when it burns. It only takes. It is the one element the furnace cannot use to keep pushing outward, no matter how fiercely it tries. For the first time in the star's long life, the furnace has nothing left to offer. The outward push falters, and finally goes silent. There is something strangely gentle in that moment, even though what follows is not gentle at all. A long conversation finally reaching its last quiet word, and gravity, which had waited so patiently for so long, is finally answered. The entire core collapses inward in less than a second, a fall faster than light could ever properly describe. Everything that had taken billions of years to build now folds in on itself in a single breathless instant, deep silence, and then everything reverses. The collapse rebounds outward in one impossible blinding instant. For one brief moment, the star gives back everything it has ever quietly held. For a few days, this single dying star can outshine every other star in its entire galaxy combined. Billions of quiet, ordinary lights, all together, briefly outdone by one furnace finally letting go. Somewhere, right now, a light like this may be crossing the dark toward us, though it left its source long before you were ever born. It is not an ending, not really. It is closer to a kind of ferocious, generous release. The iron and the calcium and the carbon and the oxygen forged across that long lifetime are all thrown outward into the dark at once, scattered across space, drifting for millions of years, cooling slowly into clouds of dust and gas. And some of that dust eventually gathers again, into new stars, new planets, new oceans, new chests quietly rising and falling in the dark. Nothing here is ever truly wasted. It is only gathered and reshaped and given a new beginning. The universe, it seems, does not know how to throw anything away. It only collects and melts down and builds again, patiently, out of its own old ashes. What looks like destruction from far enough away is only the universe clearing its throat before it begins a new sentence. The same iron once forged in that dying heart may now be resting quietly in your own tonight, keeping time with your breathing. The calcium in your bones, the oxygen filling your lungs right now, all of it passed through a furnace like this one, long before it ever became you. You carry the ending of a star inside you, quietly, gently, without ever needing to think about it. Let that settle over you now, slow and warm, as we drift onward toward the small and silent travelers that carry pieces of this story frozen inside them. Segment 4. The silent time capsules. And far out past that recycling, past every furnace and every fallen star, some fragments were never melted down at all. At the very edge of our own solar system, in a cold too deep for any sun to reach, small ancient bodies drift in perfect, undisturbed silence. They move so slowly and so far from any light that entire human lifetimes pass without a single one drifting near enough to notice. They have been waiting there since before the oceans existed, before the mountains rose, before the moon ever hung quietly in our sky. These are comets, and each one is a small, frozen time capsule, sealed since the very birth of our solar system. No wind has ever touched them. No rain has ever worn away their surface, the way it slowly wears away stone here on Earth. Whatever dust and ice happened to be drifting nearby at that first moment of creation, it simply froze there and has stayed unchanged ever since. Deep silence. When you picture a comet, you likely picture light, a bright, glowing traveler streaking softly across the dark. But that glow is only ever borrowed and only ever temporary. Underneath it, the true body of a comet is something far quieter and far darker. Its core is rougher than old stone and darker than coal pulled fresh from the earth. If sunlight fell directly onto it, with no glow surrounding it at all, it would almost disappear completely into the black around it. Imagine a small lantern, its light glowing softly all around. But the lantern itself is carved from something almost black, almost invisible in the dark. The light we see is never truly the comet. It is only the faint, borrowed glow drifting gently around something far quieter underneath. For most of its long life, a comet simply drifts like this, unlit, unseen, patient beyond anything we can easily imagine. Deep silence. But slowly, over centuries, its path curves it back toward warmth. As it drifts nearer to the sun, something quietly begins to change. The ice does not melt in the way ice melts here on Earth. It turns directly from solid into gas, skipping water entirely, rising straight into the emptiness around it. This soft awakening surrounds the small, dark core in a glowing cloud, sometimes wider than the largest planet in our entire system. Something that spent billions of years smaller than a single mountain now wears a halo vast enough to swallow entire worlds. A fragile, breathing halo wrapped gently around something that has stayed silent for billions of years. And then, the wind of the sun itself begins to press against that cloud. Not a wind you could ever feel, but a soft and constant pressure, a whisper of light and charged particles streaming endlessly outward from our star. It pushes the gas and dust outward, stretching it into a long, pale tail drifting for millions of miles behind. Let your own body soften a little further here, the way that fragile cloud softens and stretches under a pressure it cannot resist. But that tail does not follow the comet the way a shadow follows you. It always points away from the sun, no matter which direction the comet itself is traveling. It is less like a shadow and more like a memory of warmth, always pointing back toward the light that once touched it, whichever way the comet turns. So when a comet finally turns to leave, heading back out into the cold and the dark, something strange happens. Its tail no longer trails behind it at all. Instead, it now drifts quietly ahead, leading the way home into the silence. A farewell that arrives before the traveler does. softly announcing a return to the dark long before the comet itself is gone. Let that image rest with you now, drifting slowly toward whatever waits beyond it, out where entire galaxies are held together by threads too faint for any eye to see. Hashtag Segment 5, the invisible architecture. And long after those icy travelers have scattered their dust into the outer cold, something far larger holds even that distant darkness together. Step back now, further than any comet ever wanders, further than any single galaxy stretches. If you could rise far enough above even our own galaxy, high enough to see thousands of galaxies at once, you would notice something strange. They are not scattered randomly across the dark, the way sand might scatter across an empty floor. There's a pattern here, quiet and enormous, one that takes billions of years to fully reveal itself. Instead, they gather along long, delicate threads, stretching for hundreds of millions of light years through the void. Deep silence. Between those threads lie enormous empty spaces, regions where almost nothing exists at all. Vast, quiet chambers of near total emptiness, wider than the mind can comfortably hold. You could travel in a straight line through one of these voids for longer than human history has existed, and still find almost nothing waiting for you. Only scattered starlight, faint and far apart, drifting through a silence that makes even the space between stars in our own sky feel crowded by comparison. And gravity, patient beyond anything we can measure, has spent billions of years gently drawing matter away from those empty spaces, pulling it slowly toward the threads and toward the places where threads finally meet. Galaxies gathering like dew along an enormous spiderweb, cast across the entire visible universe. But threads alone cannot hold their own shape. Something unseen has to be holding this structure together. If only ordinary matter existed, the stars and dust we can actually see, gravity alone would not be strong enough to weave a web this vast or hold it steady for so long. Most of what gives this web its form is something we cannot see directly at all. We can only notice its presence by the way it quietly bends the paths of everything around it, the way a hidden current shapes the drift of a leaf on still water. We call it dark matter, an invisible scaffolding wrapped around ordinary stars and galaxies, quietly shaping where they are allowed to gather. And further out, something else entirely. Dark energy keeps gently stretching the whole vast structure wider, the way that same soft stretching once began at the very start of everything. Two invisible forces, one holding, one releasing, working together across a canvas too large for any single mind to picture all at once. And we are held inside that quiet balance too, without ever needing to notice it, the same way you are held right now by the mattress beneath you. Deep silence. Our own galaxy is not floating alone in some empty corner of space. It belongs to a vast home region of its own, one gathering of thousands of galaxies bound loosely together by gravity. This great home has a name. It is called Laniakea. In the old language of Hawaii, that word means immense. A name given by people who once read the sky itself as a kind of ocean, and understood somehow, long before any telescope confirmed it, that everything above them was moving together as one great current. And within that immense heaven, our entire galaxy, home to every star you have ever looked up and wondered about, drifts like a single small leaf, carried gently along an enormous silent river. So tonight, somewhere on a small world tucked quietly inside that leaf, you are resting. So small, in fact, that this entire structure would never even notice you, and yet somehow, you are still a real and necessary part of it. Long before satellites, before telescopes, before anyone had a name for dark matter or distant superclusters, people still lay back like this and looked upward. And long before tonight, other quiet minds once lay beneath this same vast structure, looking upward, trying to understand the patient shapes moving slowly above them. Hashtag Segment 6, the ancient watchers of the sky. Standing on that tiny node of the web, humans have always looked upward, quietly trying to weave some meaning from the patterns overhead. Long before glass lenses, long before any instrument existed to gather starlight, people were already careful, patient observers of the sky. They had no need for machines. They trusted memory instead, and mathematics, and records passed carefully from one generation to the next. An entire lifetime of watching would sometimes only add a single new line to a story that would take centuries to finish telling. And still, they kept watching, night after night, generation after generation, trusting that someone far in the future would need what they had carefully written down. Deep silence. In ancient Babylon, scholars watched the moon rise and fall for centuries without pause. They recorded eclipses on soft clay, one tablet at a time, long before anyone alive could see the whole shape of what they were finding. Slowly, across hundreds of years of quiet notes, they noticed something remarkable repeating. Roughly every 18 years, the sun, the earth, and the moon would drift back into nearly the same alignment. They called this pattern the Saros cycle, a rhythm written not in any book, but in the sky itself. On a distant island, another kind of memory was being built, not from writing, but from stone. Stonehenge was raised long before anyone alive today, arranged with such quiet precision that it still holds its secret each summer. No written plan survives to explain it, and none was ever needed. The stones themselves became the record, patient and unmoving. For thousands of summers since, that same beam of light has kept its appointment, arriving exactly where it was invited to arrive. On the longest day of the year, the sun rises exactly beside a single waiting stone, just as it was shaped to do thousands of years ago. Deep silence. Far to the south, along the banks of a great river, another kind of watching unfolded each year. Egyptian priests would rise before dawn, searching the eastern horizon for a single brilliant point of light. For weeks at a time, that star would vanish entirely, hidden behind the glare of the sun. When Sirius finally reappeared after weeks of hiding behind the sun, they knew, without any calendar, that the river was about to rise. The flooding of the Nile and the planting season that followed, all timed by the patient return of a single star. Deep silence. Centuries later, a Greek astronomer named Hipparchus compared old star charts against the sky above his own time. And he noticed something the ancients before him had missed, something too slow for any single life to witness. The Earth itself, he realized, wobbles gently as it spins, like a great slow top circling patiently through the dark. This wobble traces its way through a cycle lasting nearly 26,000 years, far longer than any watcher could ever hope to see completed. No single astronomer, however patient, could ever witness even one small piece of that vast turning begin and end within their own lifetime. And yet they still watched, faithfully, leaving their careful notes for eyes that would not open for centuries. That same quality lives in you tonight, whether you notice it or not, the same willingness to rest inside something far larger than a single lifetime. Deep silence, that same patience, that same slow attention, quietly settles now, drifting down from the sky toward the ground beneath you, past the moon's 18-year rhythm, past a single stone waiting for the solstice sun, past a star rising quietly over a great river. Down, gently, past the endless turning of the earth itself, toward something closer, something growing, something rooted in soil rather than starlight. Down past the stars, and the ancient records, and the slow turning of the earth itself, toward roots reaching quietly through dark, impatient soil. Segment 7, the forest's deep breath. And that same slow celestial drift continues sinking now, past the sky entirely, into the damp and quiet soil beneath old and patient trees. Let your body sink a little further too, heavy and unhurried, the way that drift settles gently downward through branch and leaf and root. Here, in the hush of a forest, a different kind of ancient chemistry has been quietly at work for a very long time. Each leaf above you is a small, tireless workshop, powered gently by nothing more than sunlight. No wires, no machinery, only a quiet chemistry that has been perfected over hundreds of millions of years of patient repetition. Deep silence. Tiny openings, invisible to the eye, allow the air itself to drift inward, carrying with it the raw breath of the whole planet. Deep below, roots draw water upward through the trunk, slowly, patiently against gravity itself. And inside each leaf, light and water and air are quietly rearranged into something new. A soft, invisible exhale drifts back outward, filling the air with the very oxygen that fills your lungs right now. This same slow exchange has been repeating for hundreds of millions of years, one small breath layered upon another, until an entire atmosphere had been gently reshaped. Every breath you take tonight carries, somewhere inside it, the quiet generosity of a leaf you will never meet. Deep silence. But the true wonder of a forest rarely lives above the ground at all. Beneath your feet, hidden entirely from view, a second forest exists. Roots stretch outward in every direction, patient and searching, threading through darkness and stone. And moving between them, finer than any root, delicate threads of fungus weave everything together. Scientists call this hidden lattice mycelium, a network so vast it can connect an entire forest into something almost like a single, unified body. A whole hillside of trees, quietly linked beneath the surface, closer to one large breathing organism than to many separate strangers. Through it, water moves. Minerals move. Even quiet chemical signals pass silently from one tree to another. An older tree may quietly send resources toward a struggling neighbor, without any voice, without any visible gesture at all. Deep silence. And somewhere in that dark, patient network, something even more remarkable happens. A tree's roots, moving blindly through the soil, can somehow sense which neighboring roots belong to its own family. No eyes, no memory in the way we understand memory, and yet somehow, still, a quiet form of recognition. Perhaps it is chemical, some faint signature carried through water and soil, passed silently between roots that have grown from the very same parent tree. When a young sapling finds itself surrounded by close relatives, something in it softens. It competes less fiercely for the water and light nearby, and more often shares its own roots freely with kin close beside it. It is a strange kind of gentleness, hidden entirely underground, invisible to anyone simply walking above. In the deep dark of the soil, there is a quiet kind of understanding, one family recognizing another, without a single word ever needing to pass between them. No lecture teaches a root this generosity. It is simply written into the slow, patient logic of survival itself. Perhaps rest is a little like that too, a kind of quiet trust extended toward whatever surrounds you tonight. Somewhere in that same soft darkness, resting between root and stone, a single small seed lies utterly still. It carries no fear of the years passing above it, no urgency at all. It has learned, the way this whole forest has learned, that some things are only ready when they are ready. There is no shame in stillness, no failure hidden inside a long, quiet wait. Waiting, patient beyond anything we could easily imagine, for the one exact moment it has been quietly holding its breath for all along. Hashtag segment 8, the patience of seeds. Still resting there in the damp folds of soil, that tiny seed holds an entire kind of stillness most living things could never manage. No rush moves through it. No worry passes through whatever quiet awareness a seed might hold. What looks like sleep from the outside is really something far stranger. It is the thinnest possible line between being alive and not being alive at all. A place most living things could never survive, and yet a seed rests there calmly for years, sometimes for centuries. Deep silence. Inside that small shell, nearly everything has slowed almost to a stop. The quiet machinery of metabolism, the very process that keeps most living things moving, humming, breathing, has been turned down to something barely there. Not gone, never gone, just paused, the way a single held breath can somehow stretch across years, decades, even centuries. Scientists have a name for this quiet suspension, but the feeling of it is far simpler than any scientific word could capture. It is the feeling of trusting that tomorrow will still be there, even if you cannot yet see it. Near the edge of the Dead Sea, researchers once found an ancient date seed, sealed away in dry, dark earth for nearly 2,000 years. It had waited there since before many of the oldest stories we still tell today were first written down. Through empires rising and empires falling, through countless generations living and passing on above it, it simply waited, unaware, unhurried. And when it was finally given water again, in a small pot under gentle modern light, it did something almost unbelievable. It woke up. Roots reached downward. A small green shoot reached upward. After 2,000 years of complete stillness, life simply continued exactly where it had paused. No rush to catch up on lost time, no urgency at all. Only a quiet, patient continuation, as though no time had passed in the first place. A seed is a kind of pause button for life, holding an entire future safely inside it, waiting for exactly the right moment to press play again. Deep silence. And what waits inside that pause is never random, never a simple clump of cells. Folded within even the smallest seed is a complete miniature blueprint. A tiny root, already knowing which way is down. A tiny stem, already knowing which way is up. And the very first leaves, folded so precisely they seem almost impossible, waiting patiently for their first glimpse of light. An entire future tree, curled quietly into something smaller than a fingertip, already knowing exactly who it is meant to become. Nothing here was left to chance, and nothing here needs to be rushed into being. But even with all of this readiness, a seed refuses to rush. Many seeds carry something like a quiet internal clock, one that does not simply trust the first warm afternoon it feels. It counts the cold instead, measuring the long, patient days of winter passing slowly by underground. Week after week of true cold, quietly recorded until the pattern becomes undeniable. Not measured in hours, the way you or I might count a night, but in something slower, older, closer to the rhythm of seasons themselves. Only once enough true cold has passed does the lock finally loosen, letting the seed trust that spring this time is real. No impatience, no gambling on a single warm afternoon that might still turn back to frost. Only certainty, earned slowly, the same way real rest is earned slowly, one patient hour at a time. Deep silence. That same quiet trust in timing rises now, slowly, up through dark soil, toward a small green shoot breaking gently into light. Past the shoot, past the first unfolding leaves reaching upward for their very first morning, up further still, along a branch, to something small and golden flecked, hanging motionless in the hush of the forest, quietly becoming something else entirely. Hashtag segment 9, the alchemy of metamorphosis. And there it hangs, that small golden flecked chrysalis, motionless on the outside, giving away nothing at all about what is happening within. Let your own body settle a little further now, still and quiet, the way that small shell hangs perfectly still on its branch. From the outside, it looks like the quietest kind of sleep. But a chrysalis is not a sleeping bag. It is closer to a private, hidden workshop. No light enters here, and nothing about this process asks permission. Whatever is happening in the dark simply happens, trusted completely, without needing anyone to watch over it. Deep silence. Inside, the caterpillar that once crawled slowly along that branch is no longer really a caterpillar at all. Almost everything it once was, its muscles, its old organs, its familiar shape, begins to soften and dissolve. It becomes something closer to a rich, living soup, thick with protein, waiting quietly in the dark. For a short while there is no wing, no leg, no eye, only potential suspended in warm, patient liquid. And yet this is not an ending. Somewhere inside that soup, small clusters of cells have been waiting patiently all along. They have been hidden there since before the caterpillar ever hatched, tucked away, dormant, holding a secret they were never asked to explain. Scientists call them imaginal discs, and each one already carries a very specific instruction folded inside it. One disc quietly begins shaping an eye, another begins shaping a wing, others slowly form delicate legs, and a long curled feeding tube, thin as a single eyelash. Each disc simply waits for its moment, patient in the dark, the way a seed waits for warmth, or a shoreline waits for tide. There is no panic in this waiting, no sense of anything being lost, only quiet trust that the right signal will eventually arrive. Out of that formless soup, piece by patient piece, an entirely different creature is gently assembled. Nothing rushed, nothing skipped, each small structure taking exactly as long as it needs to take. Deep silence. And here's the strangest part of all. Even after this much dissolving, this much complete rebuilding, something quietly survives the crossing. A caterpillar that once learned to avoid a certain harmful scent can, remarkably, still remember that same danger once it becomes a butterfly. Think about what that means for a moment. Almost the entire body was unmade, and yet one small, faint lesson still found its way through. Not stored in a place, exactly, but carried somehow across a transformation total enough to dissolve nearly everything else. The body dissolves almost entirely, and yet a faint thread of memory still finds its way through the quiet dark of the chrysalis. Nothing solid carries it. No single unbroken nerve survives the change intact, and yet the danger is still known, still avoided, as though the caterpillar had simply passed a quiet note forward before it disappeared entirely. And still, somehow, something continues, patient and quiet, like a story whispered from one very different self to another. Perhaps that is worth remembering tonight, that even through great change, something essential in you is allowed to remain intact. Whatever softens or shifts inside you as you drift towards sleep, some quiet, familiar thread of you will still be there in the morning. When the wings finally unfold, damp and trembling in the morning light, that fragile thread of memory unfolds along with them. Deep silence soon. Once those new wings have dried completely in the soft air, the butterfly will lift quietly into the breeze. And it will begin releasing something invisible into the wind. An unseen message drifting silently for miles, carried gently through the dark toward whoever is listening for it. No sound, no visible trace, only an invisible thread of scent unraveling slowly across the night air, waiting patiently to be found. Hashtag segment 10, the drifting whisper of life. Those same invisible molecules, drifting gently away from the newly dried wings, ride the soft forest breeze into a language far older than any spoken word. Let your own breathing drift just as gently now, unhurried, weightless, carried along by nothing more than its own quiet rhythm. This language has no sound and no visible shape at all. It is a message carried entirely by scent, shaped patiently over millions of years to say exactly what needs to be said. Evolution has spent countless generations refining this silent vocabulary, one small molecule at a time, each shape, each faint variation tuned carefully until it says precisely what it needs to say, and nothing more. Deep silence, a single molecule, drifting quietly through the dark, can be enough to change everything for another creature nearby. No image is shown, no sound is made, and yet somewhere, instantly, a decision to move, to trust, or to follow begins to form. An entire response, sometimes an entire behavior, awakened by something too small and too quiet for us to ever notice directly. It happens constantly, all around us, in every quiet corner of the natural world, completely unnoticed by anyone without the right kind of attention. Out in the night, a male moth catches the faintest trace of one such message, carried from far away on the wind. The scent does not arrive as one steady stream. The wind tears it into broken patches, drifting fragments scattered unevenly through the dark. Some patches thick and unmistakable, others so faint they barely register at all. So the moth does not fly in a simple straight line toward it. Instead, he moves in a slow, searching zigzag, crossing the drifting scent again and again, testing which direction it grows stronger. A little left, a little right, correcting gently each time the trail seems to fade. This rhythm is not confusion. It is a very old, very reliable kind of trust, built entirely on patience rather than certainty. No map, no visible trail, only patience and a careful reading of a message written entirely in air. Somewhere far ahead, unseen and unheard, something is simply waiting for him to arrive. Deep silence. On the forest floor, a different kind of chemical language quietly organizes an entire colony. Ants and termites lay down invisible trails as they travel, marking the paths worth following again. Thousands of tiny travelers, each one leaving the faintest trace, together writing a shared map that no single one of them could draw alone. No single ant plans the pattern. It simply emerges, gradually, from thousands of tiny, honest signals layered on top of one another. But these paths are never meant to last forever. Once a food source runs dry, that particular trail is not erased by hand. It simply, slowly evaporates. No single ant decides to abandon it. The message itself simply grows quieter and quieter until it is no longer there to follow. If it lingered forever, the whole colony would eventually be pulled in every direction at once, chasing memories of places that no longer offer anything. So the fading itself becomes a kind of quiet wisdom, gently clearing space for new paths to be discovered. An entire colony, quietly reorganizing itself, guided by nothing more than the slow, natural fading of an old idea. Nothing here needs to be forced to let go. It simply gradually softens away on its own. Perhaps letting go can always be this gentle, a quiet fading rather than a sudden break. Deep silence. High above those quiet, fading trails, the forest canopy is beginning to stir with something else entirely, rising softly on the spring air. Not a scent this time, not a message meant for one single traveler, but something meant to drift far and wide, touching everything it passes. A fine golden dust, ancient and resilient, beginning to drift upward into the waiting sky. Hashtag segment 11, the golden seeds of the air. Those microscopic pollen dust particles, gently beginning to float in the air, catch the pale sunlight filtering down through the forest canopy. Let your own thoughts drift just as lightly now, weightless, unhurried, catching whatever soft light still remains behind your closed eyes. Each grain looks impossibly small and impossibly fragile, drifting there in the soft afternoon light. But that fragile appearance hides something remarkably tough. What looks delicate enough to vanish in a single gust of wind is underneath one of nature's quiet masterpieces of endurance, deep silence. Wrapped around every single grain is a shell built from one of the toughest materials found anywhere in the living world. Scientists call it sporopollenin, but its true nature is far simpler to describe than to say aloud. Think of it as one of the most patient materials ever shaped by evolution, built simply to outlast almost everything around it. It can resist strong acids. It can resist intense heat. It can resist the slow, patient pressure of thousands upon thousands of years. Buried quietly in ancient mud, protected by that same tireless armor, pollen grains have preserved entire portraits of long-forgotten forests and vanished climates, layer after layer, century after century, each one settling gently, quietly recording the shape of a world that no longer exists above ground. Entire forests that vanished long before written history began are still remembered, quietly in soft layers of undisturbed mud. A tiny, nearly indestructible diary written in dust, and quietly kept safe for longer than any human memory could hold. Deep silence. But pollen was never meant only to wait. As a bee moves through the air, tiny friction against each passing molecule slowly gathers a soft electric charge across her body. An invisible charge, built quietly with every beat of her wings, long before she ever reaches a single petal. She carries it without ever knowing it is there, a small gift gathered simply by moving through open air. When she finally lands on a flower, something delicate and nearly invisible happens. Grains of pollen, feeling that gentle pull, rise ever so slightly from the surface of the bloom, drawn upward by an unseen electrostatic whisper passing quietly between insect and flower. They settle softly onto her legs, clinging there, without her ever needing to reach for them at all. No force is needed, only a quiet exchange of static, as old and as reliable as the flowers themselves. A small, invisible physics, quietly repeating itself in gardens and meadows all across the world every single day. Deep silence, and once a single grain finally lands on the right flower, something remarkable begins almost immediately. It sends out a slender living thread, a pollen tube, reaching downward through soft and unfamiliar tissue, a living needle threading itself gently through tissue it has never encountered before, guided by instinct alone. No eyes guide it, and no map exists to show the way. Trust replaces sight here, the same quiet trust that guides so much of the living world through darkness it cannot see. And yet it grows, quickly and precisely, navigating gently through the dark toward a single waiting cell far below. A tiny, determined explorer, carrying an entire future carefully wrapped inside itself. Nothing hesitant about this journey, only quiet certainty, moving steadily toward the one place it was always meant to reach. Racing quietly downward, following a path written not on any page, but somewhere deep inside its own small, patient chemistry. Deep silence. When its long journey through the forest finally ends, some of that same golden dust drifts lower still, settling quietly onto slow tidal water at the edge of the trees. Past the last low branches, past the still, warm air of the forest, out toward the place where solid ground softly dissolves into water. There, where land and sea softly meet, it begins to sink toward roots, waiting patiently in the mud below. Segment 12, the tidal forest and the silent swamps. Those golden pollen grains, gently touching the tidal waters, drift down slowly toward the mud and roots of this strange, half-water, half-land world. Let your own weight settle into the bed beneath you the way that quiet dust settles into soft, waiting mud. Here, where the ocean quietly meets the forest, something remarkably organized has been growing for a very long time. Deep silence. If you look closely along the shoreline, the trees do not simply grow at random. They arrange themselves in careful, patient rows, almost like notes in a slow, unhurried piece of music. No single tree competes for a place it was never suited to hold. Closest to the water, one kind of tree tolerates the heaviest salt. A little further inland, another kind takes its place, suited to slightly gentler conditions. And further still, where the salt fades almost entirely, yet another kind settles quietly into its own comfortable place. Each species finding exactly the spot the tide and salt have quietly prepared for it, without ever needing to compete for the wrong ground. And each new generation begins its own journey as something unusual. Unlike most seeds, these do not simply fall and wait where they land. Mangrove seeds, called propagules, look almost like small green darts, shaped and weighted for a long journey across water. Already growing slightly before they even leave the parent tree, prepared in advance for whatever waits ahead. They do not rush toward land. Instead, they drift patiently on the tide, sometimes for months, staying dormant, waiting for exactly the right mud to arrive. No anxious searching, no wasted energy, only quiet floating and quiet waiting. Some drift for weeks, others drift for months, entirely unhurried by any current pulling against them. When that moment finally comes, they turn and fall and plant themselves upright into the soft ground below. A single small seed, founding an entire future forest with nothing more than patience and good timing. No ceremony marks this beginning, only roots quietly reaching downward into waiting mud. Deep silence. Beneath the calm surface of these waters, an entire hidden city continues quietly, mostly unnoticed. Small fish weave between the tangled roots, safe from larger hunters passing in open water. Young fish, in particular, find something like a nursery here, sheltered by the same roots that hold the shoreline together. Snails and oysters cling patiently to submerged wood, filtering the slow tide again and again. An entire economy of small, quiet lives, thriving in the shadow and shelter these roots provide. None of it announced, none of it visible from the surface above, and yet all of it steadily, quietly continuing. Nearby, in quieter cypress swamps, strange woody knees rise up from the water, their true purpose still gently debated by scientists today. Nobody is entirely certain why they rise this way, and somehow, that mystery only makes the swamp feel a little more alive. Some things in nature are allowed to remain gently unexplained, and this seems to be one of them. And beneath it all, layers of soft, waterlogged soil quietly hold more carbon than most forests ever could, patiently keeping it locked away from the sky above. A slow, silent vault, built not from stone, but from centuries of decaying leaves and roots settling softly into the dark. So much quiet engineering, holding this fragile boundary between land and sea steady for centuries at a time. Deep silence, and now, drifting away from these ancient waters, away from roots and tides and slow-growing wood, the mind turns towards something else entirely alive, away from what merely grows, towards something that notices and decides and remembers, however small or quiet that awareness might be, towards small, quick sparks of instinct and awareness, flickering quietly through the minds of creatures moving through the forest around us. Hashtag segment 13, the dawn of awareness. Those same invisible mental sparks, the instinctual genius of creatures moving in silent understanding, trace back further than any forest, further than any root or branch. Let your own awareness drift backward too, gently, past tonight, past today, further than memory can easily follow. They trace back to a time long before minds existed at all, when the very first spark of noticing quietly began. Deep silence. The earliest living cells had no thoughts and no memories in any way we would recognize, but their outer walls could still sense the world pressing gently against them. A shift in chemistry nearby, a touch of warmth, a faint change in pressure drifting past. Nothing dramatic, nothing that could be called awareness, and yet, somehow, a genuine response to the world outside. The beginning of something that would, billions of years later, become curiosity and memory and even quiet reflection like this. Somewhere in that simple sensing, the smallest possible comparison began to happen. A microbe with no brain at all could still, in its own way, compare this passing moment to the moment just before it and drift, ever so slightly, toward whatever felt a little more like nourishment. Not thought, not choice, exactly. Just the first, faint flicker of noticing something and quietly responding. Deep silence, but noticing alone was never quite enough. A creature rooted firmly in one place can afford to simply wait, patiently, for whatever drifts its way. A creature that moves cannot. The instant movement enters the story, urgent questions begin arriving with it. Turn left or turn right, reach forward or pull quietly away, hide in the shadows or continue on unseen. Each choice needed to be made quickly, sometimes in the space of a single heartbeat, long before anything like careful reasoning could exist. Speed mattered more than certainty. Survival rarely waits for a perfectly reasoned answer. These small, constant decisions needed somewhere to happen, some quiet gathering point for sensation to become response. And so, slowly, across immense stretches of time, the very first simple command centers began to form. Not for philosophy, not for long, careful thought, only for the urgent, practical business of staying alive while moving through an uncertain world. A small, simple beginning, out of which everything else, slowly and patiently, would eventually grow. Deep silence. It is easy, from where we sit, to measure intelligence only by our own reflection. By language, by tools, by the particular kind of cleverness that built cities and wrote books. But that is only one narrow measurement, taken from only one narrow point of view. The natural world has always been far more inventive than a single scale could ever capture. But a spider weaving a perfect web by instinct alone carries its own quiet brilliance. A bee tracing the exact same flight path home, day after day, carries its own. And a crow, carefully selecting just the right twig to reach food it could never reach with its beak alone, carries its own as well. Each of them solving the same ancient problem of survival, in a way perfectly suited to their own small corner of the world. None of them needing our approval, or our understanding, to already be remarkable exactly as they are. Perhaps the mind was never a single ladder, with humans quietly perched at the very top. Perhaps it is closer to a wide, branching landscape, full of different, equally elegant answers to the same old question of how to survive. Deep silence. And somewhere far beyond that landscape, past the reach of sunlight entirely, another kind of mind waits quietly in the dark, deep beneath the surface of the sea, past the last shallow blue, past the final trace of any light at all, where pressure grows heavy and silence becomes almost total. Something ancient and enormous and entirely unseen drifts slowly through that deep, endless dark. Hashtag segment 14, the colossus of the abyss, sinking slowly into the cold, silent twilight zone of the ocean, where sunlight never reaches and the colossal shadows of the deep begin to stir. Here, in this endless dark, something enormous drifts quietly through the water. Let your own body sink a little further into stillness too, heavy and quiet, matching the slow patience of these deep, dark waters. Deep silence. Longer than a school bus, two long feeding tentacles trail behind it like massive living cables, lined with rows of sharp gripping suckers built for holding on and never letting go once something is caught. A grip strong enough that almost nothing, once caught, ever finds its way free again. They move slowly, almost lazily, through water so dark it swallows nearly everything. No sunlight has ever touched this place, not once, not in all the years this creature has drifted here. And yet it is far from blind. Its eyes are among the largest in the entire animal kingdom, each one wider than a dinner plate. They are not built to catch fine edges or bright, vivid color, the way our own eyes are. They are built for something else entirely, gathering every last trace of faint glowing light drifting through the black. An eye shaped not for detail, but for sensitivity, tuned to catch what almost no other creature could ever notice. Tiny sparks of bioluminescence, scattered rarely across the dark, become entire messages to eyes built this patiently for the dark. A single distant flicker can mean food, or danger, or simply another creature passing quietly through the same night. Reading soft shadows and the barest glimmer of movement, in a world where even a whisper of light can mean everything. Deep silence. This is not a hunter that chases. Chasing wastes energy that this deep, cold world can rarely afford to spare. Food is scarce down here, and every movement carries a quiet cost that cannot easily be repaid. So this creature has learned over countless generations the deep value of simply doing nothing at all. Stillness, here, is not weakness. It is one of the deepest forms of intelligence this dark world has ever produced. Instead, it waits, motionless, suspended in the dark like a held breath, patient beyond anything we could easily imagine, letting the ocean itself bring its prey close enough to reach. When the moment finally comes, those long tentacles unfurl outward, wrapping gently and completely around whatever has drifted too near. And at the very center of that soft, coiling embrace waits something hard and hidden, a sharp beak, quiet and precise. Deep silence. But even a creature this vast does not drift entirely alone down here. Far above, at the surface, another giant draws in a single enormous breath and dives. A sperm whale descending into total darkness, calling out through the black with slow, steady clicks of sound, listening for the faint echo of something massive, somewhere below, moving quietly through the same endless night. No eyes needed for this search, only patient sound, sent out and gathered back, mapping a world neither creature can truly see. An entire hunt conducted almost entirely by sound, in a place where sight has long since stopped being useful. Two ancient giants, meeting occasionally in a silence deeper than any silence we could know on land, in a drama almost no one has ever witnessed. Deep silence, and far above even that meeting, past the surface, past the waves, the same hush begins settling now over something entirely different, a quiet forest at night. The same total silence that fills the deepest ocean somehow finds its way upward too, settling gently over dark branches and cold night air, where something else, small and silent and impossibly patient, waits without moving on a branch, listening for a single sound it does not want to miss. Segment 15, the silent watchers of the night. Rising slowly from the absolute silence of the deep ocean, up through the silver currents, and emerging into the cool, misty night forest where another silent watcher waits in the dark. Let your own breathing settle into that same quiet vigilance now, calm, unhurried, alert only to the soft rhythm of rest. Perched motionless on a high branch, an owl surveys the darkness below without making a single sound. Deep silence. When it finally lifts into flight, nothing announces the movement at all. No rush of wind, no beating rhythm of feathers, only silence moving quietly between the trees. Most birds cannot help but announce themselves in flight, a soft rush of air marking every wing beat. The owl alone seems to have quietly solved this old problem, feather by feather over countless generations. Along the leading edge of each wing feather, tiny comb-like ridges quietly break the oncoming air apart, softening what would otherwise be a rush of noise into something almost like a whisper. And along the trailing edge, soft fringed edges gently unravel any small turbulence left behind, turning what could have been a sharp whistle of air into something closer to a passing breath. Stealth, written carefully into the very boundary where feather meets wind. Deep silence. The face itself carries its own quiet secret. That round, dish-shaped pattern of feathers is not simply for appearance. It works like a delicate acoustic mirror, gathering the faintest sound and gently funneling it toward two waiting ears. Each feather perfectly angled, quietly shaping the air itself into a precise, invisible instrument. Nothing about it looks mechanical, and yet its function is almost engineered in its precision. Even the smallest rustle, a single blade of grass shifting underfoot, can be gathered in and understood, so precisely tuned that even sound alone can become an entire map of the ground below. Somewhere beneath a thick blanket of snow, a small vole tunnels quietly through the dark, certain that nothing could possibly find it there. But the owl is already listening. Fully still, fully attentive, every part of its focus narrowed down to a single faint sound, even muffled, even bent and softened by layers of snow. That faint scratching sound still arrives, and still gets placed with remarkable precision. Somewhere in that quiet mind, sound alone is enough to draw a complete, invisible picture of the world beneath the snow. a picture built entirely from vibration and timing, more precise in its own way than any single glance could ever be. Wings fold, and the owl drops from its branch in complete silence, guided entirely by an unseen map built from sound alone. No second guess, no hesitation, only quiet certainty carried down through generations of listening. Deep silence. But an owl's voice is far richer than a single soft hoot drifting through the trees. They hiss and shriek and softly bark, an entire quiet vocabulary hidden inside the dark, each sound carrying its own small meaning, understood clearly by anyone else who shares that same quiet language. A rich, layered conversation unfolding in the dark, entirely unnoticed by anyone not listening closely. A mated pair will often call back and forth in careful duets, marking their shared territory beneath the stars. One voice answering another, weaving together across the dark like two familiar threads finding each other again. Each voice recognized instantly by the other, a familiar sound found easily inside a vast and unfamiliar night. Deep silence. Far past that quiet branch, past the edge of the trees entirely, the forest gives way to open, wind-swept grassland stretching beneath the same stars. The owl's world of sound and shadow slowly gives way to something wider, slower, and far more still. And there, scattered like slow-breathing hills across the dark prairie, enormous and ancient shapes rest quietly together until morning. Segment 16. The giants of the grasslands. Drifting gently past the forest edge, entering the vast, windswept grasslands of the prairie, where massive, quiet shadows rest under a blanket of cold stars, breathing in a slow, rhythmic warmth. Let your own breathing settle into that same slow rhythm now, heavy, steady, matching the calm rise and fall of sleeping giants. These enormous sleeping giants are bison, and even at rest, their bodies carry the memory of countless winters survived. Deep silence, that distinctive hump rising above their shoulders, is not simply fat. Underneath it lies a careful structure of bone, muscle, and tendon, built for a very specific kind of work. When heavy snow buries the grass below, that hump becomes leverage, allowing a bison to swing its massive head like a slow, living plow, sweeping the snow aside again and again until dry grass finally appears beneath the white. No tool was ever needed, only patience, and a body quietly engineered by countless generations of harsh winters. Each generation refining the same simple, effective design a little further without ever needing to rush the process. Deep silence. When spring finally arrives, something softer begins happening across their bodies. Thick winter wool starts loosening in patches, drifting quietly away on the breeze in soft, tangled tufts, scattered across the grass like small, forgotten clouds, caught briefly on branches and stems before drifting further still. An entire prairie, quietly dusted with soft white patches, as though the whole landscape were shedding its own winter coat. Nothing about this letting go is wasted. Small grassland birds gather these drifting patches one by one, weaving them gently into the walls of their own small nests. What once kept a giant warm through a brutal winter now cradles fragile eggs safely through a cold spring night. The same warmth, quietly continuing its purpose, simply wrapped now around something far smaller and far more fragile. An old warmth, quietly passed from one kind of creature to an entirely different one. Deep silence. Elsewhere across the plains, bison roll their heavy bodies against the earth again and again, wearing shallow bowls into the ground. These hollows are called wallows, and long after the bison have wandered elsewhere, rain quietly begins to fill them. What began as a simple, dusty comfort slowly becomes something else entirely. Patient water gathering in a shape no one planned. Small, temporary ponds appear where none existed before, drawing rare plants and small creatures that could thrive nowhere else nearby. Frogs, insects, and small wading birds, all finding a home in something a giant left behind almost by accident. A small kindness, never intended, and never asked for, simply left quietly behind in passing. The bison are not simply travelers passing through this landscape. They are quiet architects, patiently reshaping it as they go. Deep silence. For most of each day, a bison simply chews, slowly, patiently, working tough grass again and again into something the body can finally use. There is no rush in this rhythm, only steady, repeated effort, turning coarse plains grass into the strength needed to survive another winter. Hour after hour, the same slow motion, a quiet meditation practiced without ever needing a name for it. Strength gathered not through force, but through repetition, patience, and time. Nearby, mothers and calves gather together in loose, unguarded groups, a quiet nursery spread openly across the grass. No walls needed here, only the gentle presence of the herd itself, watching over the smallest among them. Deep silence. Beneath these same quiet hooves, deep under layers of soil built up over centuries, something far older lies frozen and waiting, a memory of an even colder world, past the roots and the wallows and the slow, patient rhythm of grazing, down into ground that remembers ice far older than any prairie grass. An ancient tundra, buried in time, where creatures far larger than any bison once walked slowly through endless ice. Hashtag segment 17, the frozen memory of the Mammoth Steppe, descending past the frozen bones of giants, past the cold crust of the earth, down to the ancient frozen depths where the memory of an ice age still sleeps in the silent earth. Let your body sink a little deeper too, heavy and still, resting inside the same quiet, frozen memory. Here, buried in time, an entire lost world once stretched further than most modern landscapes can even imagine. Deep silence. This was not a small regional habitat. It reached from one edge of Eurasia all the way across to North America, one continuous, frozen expanse of open land. A single unbroken world, stretching further than almost any ecosystem that exists on the planet today. Thousands upon thousands of miles, joined together beneath the same pale winter sun. No borders, no gaps, only one continuous, breathing landscape reaching from horizon to horizon. One of the largest ecosystems the planet has ever quietly held. Nothing quite like it exists today. It was not simply tundra and not simply grassland, but something in between, cold, dry, and remarkably alive all at once. Modern ecosystems tend to sort themselves neatly into categories, but this one refused to be sorted so easily. Grasses, herbs, and low shrubs thrived here in surprising abundance, feeding herds far larger than the frozen landscape might suggest. Life finding a way to flourish, quietly, even beneath a sky that offered so little warmth in return. A strange, frozen paradise, far more fertile and far more crowded with life than its icy appearance ever suggested. Deep silence. Across this endless plain, mammoths moved slowly in great, patient herds, massive, shaggy, and unhurried, following the same ancient migration paths their ancestors had followed for countless generations. A slow, deliberate rhythm, carried forward across thousands of winters without ever needing to change. Alongside them, ancient horses and herds of reindeer, quietly reshaping the land with every step they took. Their heavy footsteps pressed the soil, and their waste fed it, keeping the ground rich and endlessly renewed. An entire cycle, repeated quietly for thousands of years, giants feeding the very ground that fed them in return. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed, only a slow, endless exchange between enormous bodies and patient soil. Wherever young trees tried to take hold, these same giants trampled and grazed them back, keeping the plain open beneath a wide, unbroken sky. Without them, forest would have slowly crept in, and this entire golden grassland might have quietly disappeared beneath the trees. They were not simply passing through this place. They were shaping it, season after season, herd after herd. Architects without any plan or blueprint, simply living, and in living, quietly building the world around them. Deep silence. And humans were never separate from this cold, sprawling world. They were woven into the same web of survival, sharing the same freezing winds, the same scarce shelter, the same long, uncertain winters. They read the same signs in the sky and depended on the same herds moving slowly across the same frozen horizon. Hunting alongside cave lions, competing for the very same herds, watching the same slow, heavy shapes moving across the same white horizon. No fences, no separation, only the same wind, the same hunger, and the same wide sky above every creature living there. Not observers standing outside this ancient world, but simply one more thread within it. Woven in, exposed to the same risk, and offered the same rare rewards as every other creature sharing that cold horizon. Deep silence. And now, deep beneath these frozen bones and even older roots, the earth grows quietly warmer, softer, and heavier with pressure the further down we travel. Past ice and memory and the last cold layer of ancient soil, into a darkness where even stone begins to remember warmth. Past frost and stone and silence, toward a place where rock itself slowly begins to soften, deep in the planet's ancient, living heat. Hashtag segment 18, the Earth's living fire. Past the ancient frozen depths where the memory of an ice age still sleeps in the silent earth, descending further down to the places where stones begin to soften, warming the dark and glowing with the Earth's living fire. Let your own body soften a little further too, warm and heavy, sinking into stillness the way stone slowly sinks into heat. Nothing here needs to hold its shape too tightly, not tonight, not this deep beneath everything. Down here, deep beneath everything frozen and everything familiar, rock itself slowly forgets how to stay still. Heat and pressure, patient beyond anything we could measure, slowly coax solid stone into something closer to a slow, glowing liquid. Deep silence. Some lava flows slowly, smoothly, almost gently across the ground. This kind is called pahoho, and as it moves, its surface cools into soft, twisting ropes and folds. Each ripple forming slowly, almost unhurried, like fabric settling into place after a long, slow breath. If you could touch its cooled surface, it would feel almost woven, coiled gently by heat rather than by any hand. But underneath, the hot flow continues quietly onward, hidden beneath a thin, wrinkled skin, already turning solid in the open air. Like a fine, delicate fabric settling slowly over something still warm and alive underneath. Deep silence. Other lava behaves quite differently. Thicker, cooler, and rougher, this kind is called aha, and it moves almost like a river of broken stone, each block sharp-edged and unyielding, tumbling forward in a slow, grinding procession. As it advances, jagged fragments tumble and grind against each other, clinking and crackling in a slow, steady rhythm. Not violent, exactly, but insistent, a rough and constant murmur moving steadily forward, a texture built entirely from friction, patience, and slow, relentless motion. Each small collision, another quiet note in an unhurried, rocky song, sung only for the patient dark surrounding it. Deep silence. Far beneath the ocean, lava tells yet another story. When scorching rock meets the deep, cold sea, its outer surface freezes almost instantly on contact. A sudden dramatic meeting between two of the planet's most opposite extremes. But pressure from within keeps pushing gently outward, swelling the cooling shell into soft, rounded shapes. Each new pillow forming only where the last one finally settled, patient and unhurried despite the violence of its birth. One after another, these shapes pile quietly on top of each other, forming pillow lava, a hidden architecture resting silently on the ocean floor. An entire underwater landscape, built slowly, patiently, in complete darkness, far from any eye that might admire it. A quiet, hidden beauty, existing perfectly well without ever needing to be witnessed. Deep silence. And in certain rare places, lava gathers into wide, glowing lakes. A molten surface, restless and radiant, holding heat that few living things could ever survive standing near. Their surfaces slowly darken and crust over, only to crack apart and sink back down again, moments later. Fresh, molten rock rises to take its place, endlessly overturning in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. An entire lake, breathing in its own slow, glowing rhythm, never fully still and never truly finished. Darkening, cracking, sinking, rising again and again. An unhurried cycle with no true beginning and no true end. Stone, it turns out, was never entirely solid. It is simply the planet's warm, patient heartbeat, breathing far too slowly for us to notice. Deep silence. And centuries from now, once this same fire has cooled completely into dark, fertile ground, something small and hopeful will begin reaching quietly downward into it, past the last traces of ash and warmth, into soil so rich it seems to remember the fire that made it. Soil built from destruction, and yet somehow more generous, more alive than almost any ground that came before it. Tender roots, patient and unafraid, searching through the darkness for a new kind of nourishment, waiting silently below. Hashtag segment 19. The silent architecture of the underworld, as these molten rocks slowly cool over centuries, crumbling under wind and rain to become the most fertile volcanic soil, where the first tender seeds awaken in the dark, stretching their delicate roots downward into the nurturing earth. Let your own body settle downward too, gently, unhurried, the way a young root settles quietly into welcoming soil. Each root tip moves through the soil like a small, patient fingertip, feeling its way rather than forcing its way forward. No eyes, no light, and yet somehow, always finding a way through. Deep silence. It can sense the pull of gravity, always quietly choosing downward. And it can sense water, even faintly, drawing gently toward wherever moisture waits nearby. A quiet instinct, older than any conscious thought, guiding growth toward exactly what it needs. When a stone blocks its path, the root does not push through it. It simply curves, patiently, tracing a slow path around the obstacle instead. No frustration, no wasted effort, only quiet adjustment, again and again, however many times it takes. Patience written directly into the smallest, most humble part of the plant. The root does not force. It feels and finds. Deep silence. In a quiet forest in Utah, one such root system tells an extraordinary story. Thousands of trembling aspen trunks rise from the ground there, each one looking from above like a separate, individual tree. But beneath the surface, they are not separate at all. One single ancient root system connects every trunk, a single living organism spreading quietly under the entire forest, older than most civilizations, and still patiently sending up new life season after season. Fires have swept through this same ground many times, and every time, life has simply risen again from what remained hidden below. When fire sweeps through and burns the trunks above, that hidden root system simply waits and sends new shoots rising once again from the ashes. Loss met not with despair, but with quiet, practiced renewal. Deep silence. Among towering sequoia trees, roots take a very different approach. Instead of reaching deep, they spread wide, weaving outward until they meet the roots of their neighbors. There, underground, they interlock, quietly gripping one another beneath the surface. An entire grove, joined invisibly below the ground, long before anyone above notices how closely they are connected. No single trunk stands entirely alone, even when it appears to, even in the stillest, most solitary moment. They hold because they hold each other, an entire grove standing steady through storms no single tree could survive alone. Deep silence. Not every root serves the same quiet purpose. A carrot is a true root, swollen gently with stored sweetness, waiting patiently beneath a small green stem. A potato, though buried just as deeply, is something else entirely. A stem in disguise, dotted with small sleeping buds, nature's small, gentle joke. Two humble vegetables, two completely different quiet designs. Nothing about either design is lesser, only different, each one perfectly suited to its own small purpose. And far across open prairie, grass roots reach further down than most people would ever imagine, sometimes deeper than the grass itself grows tall. A hidden forest beneath the visible one, quietly holding an entire ecosystem together from below. Holding the soil steady through drought and fire alike, quietly storing carbon in patient, unseen threads beneath the windswept plain. Deep silence. And somewhere above that same patient soil, golden stalks of wheat sway gently, their grain soon to be gathered, ground, and mixed with water in a warm, dim kitchen. Past the roots and the seeds, and the long partnership between grass and soil, into a quiet kitchen where flour waits softly in a bowl. There, in a quiet bowl, flour and water slowly begin to stir, as something invisible and ancient quietly starts to wake. #Segment 20, the alchemy of flour and time. Stretching their delicate roots downward into the nurturing earth, where the quiet partnership between wheat and soil begins, shifting slowly from the dark ground to the warm, peaceful sanctuary of a quiet kitchen, where unbaked dough is about to awaken. Let your own body soften into that same warm stillness now, unhurried, patient, like dough quietly resting before it rises. Bread was never carefully designed by anyone. It likely began as a quiet accident, crushed wild grain mixed with a little water, resting by chance near warm stone or soft ash. Somewhere, long before writing existed, someone simply noticed that this accident tasted good and quietly did it again. No plan, no recipe, only curiosity meeting warmth at exactly the right moment. Deep silence. What follows that accident, even today, feels almost like a meditation. Hands press into a rough, sticky mixture, folding it gently forward again and again. Fold and push and turn, a slow, steady rhythm repeating patiently beneath quiet fingers. The same three movements, over and over, until the mind itself begins to settle into their rhythm. There is nowhere to rush toward, only the dough itself, slowly changing beneath careful, repeated attention. With each motion, long protein strands slowly begin to link together, forming something almost like an invisible, elastic scaffold. Scientists call this gluten, but its true nature is closer to a quiet architecture, built one gentle fold at a time. Strong enough to hold tiny pockets of air, gently, without letting them escape too soon. Deep silence. Some bakers keep something even older resting quietly on their counter. A small jar of flour and water, alive with wild, invisible yeast, passed down carefully from one generation to the next. This sourdough starter can easily outlive the very hands that first fed it. Passed from parent to child, from friend to friend, a small living inheritance carried gently across generations, longer sometimes than the lifespan of the baker who first stirred it into being. Fed a little flour, a little water, day after day, decade after decade, kept alive through simple, patient attention. A small, living flame, tended patiently for decades, sometimes even for centuries. Deep silence, and into this rising mixture only a small pinch of salt is added. It does far more than season. It quietly slows the wild yeast down, keeping their eager fermentation from rushing ahead too quickly. Restraint, in this case, becomes its own quiet form of generosity toward the final loaf. Without it, everything might rise too fast, too eager, missing the depth that only patience can add. A small, silent conductor, holding the whole rising tempo steady and unhurried. Deep silence. When the dough finally meets the heat of the oven, something delicate happens in those very first moments. A soft cloud of steam surrounds it, keeping the outer surface moist just long enough to stretch freely. Without that gentle moisture, the crust might harden too soon, trapping the dough before it has fully found its shape. A brief, careful patience, allowing the loaf every chance to become fully itself before settling into its final form. Inside that gentle mist, the dough expands, rising fully before its crust has any chance to harden too soon. And slowly, the surface starches turn glossy and firm, forming that familiar golden crust we know so well. Deep silence. Far from the oven's warmth now, in cool mountain caves carved deep into stone, another kind of quiet transformation is just beginning to stir. Past the last trace of warm bread and rising flour, into a cooler, darker stillness, where time itself becomes the main ingredient. There, in the cold and the dark, patient proteins in milk slowly start drawing closer together, waiting for time itself to finish the work. Hashtag segment 21, the silent transformation of milk. Shifting slowly from the warm baking aromas of the oven to the cool, quiet depths of ancient stone caves, where milk begins its own patient, silent transformation under the slow hand of time. Let your own body cool and settle now, calm and unhurried, resting in the same quiet stillness. Inside a quiet vat, warm milk sits still, calm and perfectly balanced. Nothing about it hints yet at the transformation quietly waiting to begin. Deep silence. Only a few drops of rennet are needed to change everything. A substance so precise that only the smallest quantity is ever required to begin such an enormous change. This quiet enzyme gently severs the delicate protein bonds holding the milk in its liquid form. A change so precise, it happens in mere moments, invisible to the eye until its result finally appears. Within minutes, what was once a smooth liquid begins to gather and thicken and set into a soft, trembling curd. A quiet reminder that even the gentlest ingredients can hold enormous transformative power. A small, quiet miracle, repeated the same way for thousands of years. Deep silence. What happens next is not simple waiting. Aging a cheese is closer to a slow, careful art, a controlled and patient kind of decay. Nothing chaotic about it, only careful, deliberate change guided gently by time and temperature. Every wheel resting in the exact same cool, patient darkness, changing at its own unhurried pace. No two wheels ever changing in quite the same way, even resting side by side in the very same cave. Proteins and fats break down gradually, piece by piece, into smaller, richer fragments of flavor. Each month adding a little more depth, a little more complexity to something that once tasted only of plain, simple milk. A quiet transformation that no single moment could achieve alone, only the slow accumulation of many patient months. Deep silence. On cheeses like brie or camembert, a soft white layer quietly forms across the surface. That pale, velvety rind is not simply decoration. It serves a purpose far more active than its soft, quiet appearance would ever suggest. It is alive, a breathing, living forest of countless microscopic organisms, quietly working together. An entire ecosystem, small and unseen, thriving quietly in the cool, still air of the cave. Each organism playing its own small part in a much larger, cooperative transformation. Together, they slowly soften the cheese from the outside in, a gentle wave of transformation moving steadily toward the center. Deep silence. Inside cheeses aged for years, tiny, crunchy crystals sometimes form. Not salt, but the quiet remnants of broken down amino acids. Small fossils marking time pass slowly within the cheese itself. Each bite carrying quite literally a small piece of measured, patient history. A texture that could not exist without years of patient, uninterrupted stillness. Proof, in a way, that nothing was hurried, that every crystal earned its place slowly. Each crystal a tiny record of patience, formed only because nothing was rushed. Deep silence. Long before refrigeration existed, cheese served a deeper purpose. It was a way of capturing summer itself, all that rich milk and warm abundance, and folding it safely into something that could survive winter's harshest months. A quiet act of preparation, turning fleeting abundance into something that could last through the leanest, coldest days. When rivers froze and fields turned pale and empty, this quiet preparation became the difference between hunger and comfort. Long before written language, people understood this simple exchange between patience now and comfort later. Sunlight and grass, quietly preserved in fat and salt, waiting patiently in the cold for hungrier days ahead. Deep silence, transitioning from the cool, salt-scented air of the cheese cave to the warm, aromatic trade winds of the ancient world, where seeds, bark, and roots carry the fiery, comforting whispers of far-off suns. Hashtag segment 22, the aromatic whispers of the earth. transitioning from the cool, salt-scented air of the cheese cave to the warm, aromatic trade winds of the ancient world, where seeds, bark, and roots carry the fiery, comforting whispers of far-off suns. Let your own breathing warm gently now, unhurried, carried softly along these old and fragrant winds. Each spice carries its own small story, patient and quiet, long before it ever reaches a plate. Deep silence. A single crocus flower holds only 3 delicate red threads inside it. Each one must be gathered gently by hand, just after sunrise, before the fragile petals begin to fade. Thousands upon thousands of flowers, each offering only a few precious threads, patiently collected one by one. A harvest measured not in hours, but in the sheer number of tiny, careful hands and quiet mornings required. This is saffron, and even the smallest pinch can turn an entire pot of rice into deep, glowing gold. A single thread carrying the patience of an entire early morning harvest. Deep silence. Vanilla begins its life as a shy, pale orchid blossom. Each flower opens for only a single day and must be pollinated by hand to ever bear fruit at all. A narrow window of opportunity, easily missed, requiring careful attention at exactly the right moment. Once the green pods form, they are dried and warmed and rested for months, slowly gathering their familiar, comforting aroma. Nothing about that rich scent exists at first. It is coaxed forward slowly, patiently, through weeks of careful waiting. Warmth, sweetness, and comfort, all quietly earned rather than simply given. Deep silence. Cloves begin as small, unopened flower buds. They are picked at exactly the right moment, just before blooming, when their natural oils are at their richest. A brief window, timed carefully, before the flower ever gets the chance to fully unfold. That oil carries an old, gentle warmth, one that has soothed sore mouths and tired minds for centuries. A small bud, holding far more comfort inside it than its tiny size would ever suggest. Deep silence. Black and white pepper, so different in color, both come from the very same vine. Black pepper is simply the whole berry, dried slowly in the sun until it darkens. White pepper is that same berry, quietly stripped of its outer skin, revealing something softer underneath. A small difference in preparation, yet enough to change the whole character of its flavor entirely. One plant, 2 entirely different characters, shaped only by how patiently each one is prepared. Nothing added, nothing removed, only time and choice shaping 2 very different final experiences. Deep silence. Turmeric's deep golden color comes from a compound called curcumin. The plant grows it quietly as its own natural shield, a protection built into every bright root, a defense meant for the plant itself, long before it ever reaches a kitchen or a bowl. And yet, in us, that same fierce little shield softens into something warm and grounding and comforting. A plant's defense quietly transformed into one of the most comforting flavors we know. Deep silence. Mustard seeds, when dry, rest in complete and total silence. No sharpness, no bite, only quiet stillness curled inside a tiny shell. 2 separate substances waiting patiently apart. Harmless, simply because they have never met. But the moment water touches them, 2 separate substances inside finally meet, and their sharp, familiar warmth awakens all at once. A small, contained chemistry, sleeping quietly until the exact right moment finally arrives. A reminder that even the sharpest sensations can rest peacefully, simply waiting for the right conditions to arrive. As these warm, aromatic molecules dissolve on the tongue, sliding gently downward into the quiet, dark sanctuary of the inner body. The silent, living landscape of the gut, where the body's own hidden chemistry is waiting to turn these earthly gifts into life. Segment 23. The silent landscape of the gut. As these warm, aromatic molecules dissolve on the tongue, sliding gently downward into the quiet, dark sanctuary of the inner body, the silent, living landscape of the gut, where the body's own hidden chemistry is waiting to turn these earthly gifts into life. Let your own body settle into that same quiet processing now, calm, trusting, unaware of just how much is happening beneath the surface. Deep inside, one long, winding passage stretches quietly from beginning to end, a corridor with no true straight lines, curving gently wherever the body's architecture requires. Deep silence. The small intestine alone, if gently unrolled, would stretch the length of an entire room, longer than most people would ever imagine carrying quietly inside such a small, compact space. And yet it fits neatly, coiled with quiet precision inside the small space of the abdomen, an entire hidden geometry folded so cleverly that its true scale remains completely invisible from the outside. Deep silence. Living along this long, warm corridor are countless trillions of tiny microbes. None of them are truly part of you, and yet together they function almost like a hidden organ of their own. an organ with no fixed shape, made of countless separate lives working quietly toward one shared purpose. Trillions of individual decisions, somehow adding up to something coherent and patient and remarkably wise. Quietly working day and night, shaping something researchers now call an inner weather. What you eat, how well you rest, even how much stress you carry, all gently shift that weather from one day to the next. Nothing about it ever stays perfectly still, always responding, always adjusting to the life surrounding it. A quiet mirror, reflecting back whatever rhythm you choose to give it. Deep silence. Much of the body's immune defense also lives here, patiently stationed along this same soft wall. Every bite passing through is quietly inspected, like a gentle checkpoint sorting friend from danger. Thousands of small, careful decisions made every single day, almost entirely without your awareness. A quiet, tireless vigilance, never announced, never noticed, and yet constantly at work. And somehow, in the middle of all that vigilance, it learns tolerance, allowing trillions of helpful microbes to stay completely undisturbed. A strange and beautiful kind of wisdom, knowing exactly when not to react. Restraint, it turns out, can be its own quiet form of intelligence. Deep silence, most of the body's serotonin, the same gentle chemical linked to calm and comfort, is not made in the brain at all. It begins here, quietly, in this dark and constant inner landscape, far from where we usually imagine emotion living, deep instead in this quiet working corridor. Perhaps calm has always lived closer to the body than we ever gave it credit for, carried upward through a long, patient nerve pathway, whispering softly toward the mind above. A quiet conversation running constantly between two distant parts of the very same body. Steady, gentle, and mostly unnoticed, exactly the way the truest kinds of support usually are. Deep silence, fiber, so often overlooked, plays its own generous role in all of this. To the microbes living here, fiber is not simply filler, it is a quiet, abundant feast, a nightly banquet, patiently prepared without anyone needing to plan it. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed, only steady, quiet nourishment passed generously from one form of life to another. As they break it down, they create small, nourishing compounds that feed the very walls surrounding them. An entire hidden ecosystem, feeding itself gently, and in doing so, feeding you. A quiet exchange, repeated nightly, asking for nothing more than a little fiber and a little patience. Deep silence, transitioning gently from the quiet, rhythmic processing of the inner core to the silent, tireless army of the body's self-healing systems, which activate in the deepest hours of sleep, weaving threads of repair and restoration across every cell. Hashtag Segment 24, the silent night shift of repair. Transitioning gently from the quiet, rhythmic processing of the inner core to the silent, tireless army of the body's self-healing systems, which activate in the deepest hours of sleep, weaving threads of repair and restoration across every cell. Let your own body sink fully into this quiet shift now, trusting completely, resting while unseen hands begin their careful work. While you rest, the body does not simply pause. Instead, it quietly shifts into its most careful and dedicated shift of the entire day. A shift with no clock to punch and no supervisor needed, only the body's own quiet sense of duty. Deep silence. Growth hormone rises quietly through the dark, signaling countless cells to begin their nightly work. A quiet signal, released without effort, simply because darkness and stillness finally allow it. Damaged proteins are gently cleared away, and the small, accumulated waste of a long day is patiently swept aside. Worn tissues are rebuilt, cell by careful cell, restoring what the day slowly wore down. A full renovation, carried out silently, while your only task is simply to remain still. None of this requires your attention or your effort, only the simple gift of rest itself. Deep silence. Think for a moment of the smallest possible wound, a tiny paper cut, barely felt at all, hardly worth a second thought, and yet underneath, an entire quiet drama has already begun. And yet beneath the surface, an entire emergency response begins almost instantly. Platelets rush to the site, not simply sealing the opening, but calling other cells to begin rebuilding. A small, urgent signal, spreading outward the instant it is needed. Within seconds, an entire response has already been quietly organized. Fibroblasts arrive soon after, laying down delicate threads of collagen, weaving a fresh scaffold across the wound. An entire construction crew gathered and organized in less time than it takes to notice the cut occurred. Skill built not from thought, but from countless generations of quiet, practiced repetition. Deep silence. Even something as solid as bone knows how to heal itself. A strength we rarely think about, until the exact moment it is finally called upon. After a fracture, the body does not simply glue the pieces back together. It builds a soft, flexible bridge first, made of cartilage and fibrous tissue, gently spanning the broken gap. Nothing rigid yet, only a patient, temporary structure, holding everything gently in place. Slowly, that soft bridge hardens into solid, mineral-rich bone, shaped patiently by the same pressures it will carry each day, quietly reinforcing itself wherever daily movement asks the most of it. A living sculptor, adjusting its own shape based on exactly how it is used. No blueprint needed, only years of quiet listening to the body's own daily rhythm. Deep silence. Deep within the blood, tiny antibodies drift quietly, carrying memories of battles fought long ago. Even years after an illness has passed, these small molecular souvenirs remain, ready to respond the instant they are needed again. Patient guardians, quietly standing watch long after the danger that first created them has faded completely. A quiet form of memory, held not in the mind, but in the blood itself. Deep silence. As the years pass, this quiet repair continues, even as its pace naturally begins to slow. Skin softens its rhythm. Bone remodels a little more gently. But the commitment itself never fully disappears, only adjusts, patiently, to meet each new season of life. Slower, gentler, but never entirely gone. A quiet loyalty carried faithfully across an entire lifetime. A quiet promise, kept faithfully in some form, for every single year the body is given. As this continuous, quiet labor of self-repair and cellular maintenance slowly accumulates over the days and decades, keeping the body's delicate balance intact, transitioning gracefully into the grand, slow rhythm of longevity. The art of living a long, beautifully sustained life. #segment 25. The architecture of time. As this continuous, quiet labor of self-repair and cellular maintenance slowly accumulates over the days and decades, keeping the body's delicate balance intact, transitioning gracefully into the grand, slow rhythm of longevity. The art of living a long, beautifully sustained life. Let your own thoughts drift now toward that same slow, patient rhythm, unhurried, spread gently across years rather than moments. Genes are often imagined as a fixed sentence, already written, already decided, but they are closer to a hand of cards, offering tendencies rather than certainties. The hand you are dealt matters, but so does every choice made in how it is played. Skillful play, patiently practiced over decades, can shift the odds far more than most people realize. Deep silence. Even identical twins, sharing the very same genetic code, can drift toward remarkably different lives. One growing frail early, the other remaining strong and active well into old age. Not because of any difference in the genes themselves, but in how daily life quietly shaped their expression. One small choice repeated daily, and then another, slowly bending two identical beginnings toward very different endings. Biology, it turns out, is real, and yet beautifully responsive. Deep silence. In certain quiet corners of the world, people live unusually long, healthy lives. Not through anything extreme, and not through any dramatic intervention at all. No rare supplement, no secret formula hidden away from the rest of the world. Only ordinary days, gently repeated with unusual consistency, decade after decade. Simplicity itself, it turns out, may be one of the most powerful strategies available. Simply through plant-rich meals, gentle daily movement, and deep, unhurried bonds with the people around them. Nothing flashy, only steady, quiet consistency, repeated for a lifetime. Deep silence. In Okinawa, many people follow a simple, gentle rule at mealtime. They stop eating not when completely full, but when they feel roughly 80% satisfied. A small, patient restraint, practiced so consistently it barely requires thought anymore. Not deprivation, only quiet awareness, choosing enough over more. A quiet pause before the very last bite, honoring comfort over excess. Deep silence. On Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula, elders rarely exercise in any formal sense. Instead, movement simply lives inside their days, tending gardens, walking to visit neighbors, carrying water, working the land, nothing labeled as a workout, and yet everything about their day keeps them steadily, gently moving. Purpose in motion, quietly woven together into something that never feels like obligation. Work itself becomes its own quiet form of exercise, unnoticed and entirely sustainable. They do not schedule movement. They design a life where movement happens automatically. Deep silence. Ordinary routines, repeated daily without much thought, quietly protect the mind as well. Fewer small decisions to make each day leaves more steady ground to stand on when life inevitably grows difficult. Energy saved from 100 tiny choices, quietly redirected toward whatever truly needs it most. Freedom, in a strange way, sometimes grows out of a little quiet structure, a familiar rhythm to lean on, especially on the days that feel least steady. A simple scaffold, holding everything gently in place through harder seasons. Deep silence. The true goal was never simply adding more years. It is filling those years with independence, movement, clarity, and quiet purpose. A life measured not only in length, but in how fully each of those years can still be lived. Years spent moving freely, thinking clearly, and remaining genuinely present within your own life. That in the end is the quieter, deeper kind of longevity worth pursuing. Not merely more time, but more life held fully inside that time. Deep silence. As we contemplate this beautifully sustained dance of life across the decades, our awareness gently shifts from the organic rhythms of the body to the silent, invisible forces that pull and guide the physical world. The unseen flow of magnetic fields that shape the very earth beneath our feet. Segment 26. The invisible pull. As we contemplate this beautifully sustained dance of life across the decades, our awareness gently shifts from the organic rhythms of the body to the silent, invisible forces that pull and guide the physical world, the unseen flow of magnetic fields that shape the very earth beneath our feet. Let your own body rest inside that same quiet pull now, held gently, the way the whole planet is held within its own invisible field. Sea turtles cross entire oceans without a single map, without a single visible landmark to guide them. For thousands of miles, drifting currents and endless open water, and still they know exactly where they are going. No landmark needed, only a quiet trust in something far older than sight itself. Deep silence. They simply read the planet's faint magnetic lines, sensing direction the way we might sense warmth on our skin. The ocean looks empty to us, and yet to a turtle, it is layered with invisible landmarks, quietly waiting to be remembered. Salmon do the same, returning across vast distances to the exact waters where their own lives first began, guided home not by sight, but by a quiet internal compass carried since the day they hatched. Thousands of miles of ocean, and still, somehow, they find the exact same quiet stream they once began in. Deep silence. Move a magnet gently near a coiled wire, and something quiet begins to stir. Electrons inside that wire respond, nudged softly into motion by a force they cannot see. No touch, no contact, only invisible influence quietly setting something in motion. A quiet reminder that force does not always require a hand to make it happen. That simple, repeated motion, multiplied endlessly, becomes enough to light entire cities after dark. Deep silence. Inside a speaker, that same invisible force learns to speak. Electric current moves through a coil, and a magnet gently pushes it back and forth, shaping air into sound. A quiet dance, invisible and precise, translating electricity into something we can finally hear. A whisper, a melody, or a familiar voice, all quietly born from magnets and motion working together. Deep silence. Deep inside an MRI machine, powerful magnets rest at a temperature colder than the emptiness of space itself. Liquid helium keeps them there, patient and still, allowing an invisible field to align the hydrogen atoms quietly living inside your own body. Trillions of tiny compasses, all inside you right now, waiting quietly for the moment they are gently called upon. A hidden alignment, resting patiently inside your own body, right now, without you ever needing to notice it. For a few careful moments, those atoms answer, and the body's hidden structure gently reveals itself. Deep silence. Inside a simple piece of iron, countless tiny magnetic regions once pointed in every direction at once, like a room full of quiet, scattered voices, each one small and independent, and pointing wherever it happened to settle. But when a strong field arrives, something shifts. One by one, those small voices turn until they are finally singing quietly in the very same direction. The domains were always there, but they needed a leader to bring so many separate voices into one shared song. Deep silence. Opposite poles reach for each other eagerly, drawn together without hesitation. A quiet, immediate pull, as though they had simply been waiting for permission to finally meet. But two poles that match only push apart, holding a careful, invisible distance. Neither one will cross. Nothing visible stands between them, and yet something firm and certain keeps them gently apart. Deep silence. As we trace these invisible lines of magnetic force wrapping our Earth, we let our awareness lift. We rise past the magnetosphere, out beyond the atmosphere, beyond the stars, drifting slowly toward the very limits of what can be observed. The distant, silent horizon where space itself curves and light becomes ancient history. Segment 27. The frontier of nothingness. As we trace these invisible lines of magnetic force wrapping our Earth, we let our awareness lift. We rise past the magnetosphere, out beyond the atmosphere, beyond the stars, drifting slowly toward the very limits of what can be observed. the distant, silent horizon where space itself curves and light becomes ancient history. Let your own mind drift out here too, unhurried, weightless, resting in a space too vast to ever fully hold on to. There is nothing here you need to solve or measure or fully understand tonight. The universe has no wall waiting somewhere out there. No final edge marking where everything simply stops. Only more space, curving quietly onward, further than imagination can comfortably follow. Deep silence. A traveler moving in a perfectly straight line would never crash into some final boundary. Instead, space itself gently curves, the way the surface of the Earth curves beneath a sailor walking a straight path. Keep walking far enough on a curved surface, and you eventually find yourself back where you began. Perhaps the universe holds the same quiet secret, curving so gently we could never notice it from where we stand. There is no final fence out there. Space is simply not a room with walls. Deep silence. The expansion of the universe is not an explosion scattering matter into empty space. It is space itself, quietly stretching, carrying galaxies further apart the way a slow current carries leaves. No center to this stretching, and no direction it favors more than any other. Every point drifting away from every other point, gently, all at once, everywhere. Because of this stretching, some galaxies now drift away faster than light itself could ever cross the growing distance. Their present moment has quietly slipped beyond our future entirely, forever out of reach. Not gone, exactly, only permanently separated by a gap that keeps quietly, patiently growing. Deep silence. When telescopes look as far as they possibly can, they find a faint, ancient glow filling the entire sky. This is the universe's earliest light, released from the moment space first became clear enough for light to travel freely. A memory older than any star, older than any galaxy we can name. Light that has been traveling, patiently, since almost the very beginning of everything. A single, unbroken journey, far longer than any story we could ever tell about it. It surrounds us in every direction, a soft, glowing wall marking the edge of what we can ever see. Deep silence. Some physicists imagine our entire observable universe as something smaller still, a single calm bubble floating within an endless, restless ocean of inflating space. A small pocket of stillness, surrounded by something far larger and far stranger than we could ever picture. Our entire sky, our entire history, contained within something that might itself be impossibly small by comparison. A strange, humbling thought to rest with, quietly, before drifting further still. Countless other bubbles, perhaps, each one its own quiet universe, drifting far beyond any horizon we could ever reach. Deep silence. There is a gentle difference between what we can see and what we could ever touch. Some distant light reaches us even now, carrying an image of a place we will never actually visit. A photograph of somewhere permanently beyond reach, arriving faithfully anyway. Light keeping its promise long after any real visit has become entirely impossible. A quiet kind of loyalty, carried across distances too vast for any single word to properly hold. We can witness it quietly and still never arrive. A soft, bittersweet kind of distance. Deep silence. Transitioning from the extreme, unreachable horizons of the cosmic edge back into the observable vastness, where galaxies do not drift in isolation, but are woven together along immense, glowing threads of gravity and dark matter, the silent, magnificent architecture of the cosmic web. #segment 28, the great cosmic tapestry. Transitioning from the extreme, unreachable horizons of the cosmic edge back into the observable vastness, where galaxies do not drift in isolation, but are woven together along immense, glowing threads of gravity and dark matter, the silent, magnificent architecture of the cosmic web. Let your own body settle into that same quiet weave now, held gently, one small thread among countless others. The universe was never scattered randomly, like dust thrown carelessly into the dark. Deep silence. Instead, galaxies gather along long filaments, glowing sheets, and vast quiet voids, forming something closer to a living tissue than empty space. A pattern too vast to see from any single point, only revealed once enough of the universe has been carefully mapped. Decades of patient observation, slowly assembling a picture no single glance could ever provide. The universe is not simply filled with objects. It has architecture, deep silence. The first seeds of this structure were planted almost at the very beginning of everything. Inside the universe's earliest light, tiny microscopic differences in density quietly existed, barely there at all. Differences smaller than anything we could easily imagine, and yet enough to matter enormously. A slightly denser patch here, a slightly emptier patch there, so faint it would take the finest instruments to ever detect them. Over billions of patient years, those faint ripples slowly grew, weaving themselves into the largest structure the universe has ever built. deep silence. Before any galaxy could gather, something unseen had already begun preparing the way. Dark matter, invisible and silent, clumped first, carving gentle gravitational wells and paths through the emptiness. A hidden architecture, quietly finished long before anything visible ever arrived to fill it. The invisible always came first, patiently waiting for the visible to catch up. Ordinary matter, gas, and eventual galaxies simply drifted into this waiting scaffold. We live in a visible palace, built quietly upon an invisible foundation. Deep silence. Along these long filaments, galaxies drift like leaves carried gently down the length of a slow river. Many of these rivers eventually meet, gathering into vast crossroads where enormous clusters form. Thousands of galaxies drawn together at these meeting points, bound loosely by gravity across unimaginable distances. Vast, glowing intersections where countless individual rivers finally converge into something far greater. At these crossroads, immense clouds of gas grow hot enough to glow faintly in X-ray light, marking each meeting point like a quiet beacon. Deep silence. Our own galaxy belongs to one such vast structure, gently named Laniakea, immense heaven in the old language of Hawaii. Its edges are not drawn with any fixed line, but traced instead by the quiet direction galaxies flow, all pulled gently toward one great shared gravitational center. A boundary defined not by distance, but by motion itself, quietly agreeing on a single shared destination. An entire cosmic neighborhood, held together simply by the direction everything happens to be flowing. Deep silence. Light itself needs hundreds of millions of years just to cross a single filament from one end to the other. So every time we look at this vast structure, we are not only seeing space, we are seeing deep time woven silently into light. Each glowing thread carrying its own quiet fossil of the ancient past, arriving only now. A picture and a memory, arriving together, folded quietly into the very same beam of light. Deep silence. And as we let our eyes drift along these glowing intergalactic rivers of stardust and dark matter, our focus slowly narrows, down from the colossal sheets and filaments of the web, down to the heart of a single galaxy, where a massive, ancient star is quietly burning through its final reserve of fuel, poised on the delicate threshold of a spectacular element-forging explosion. A supernova that is about to write the next chapter of cosmic history in a flash of brilliant fading light. Segment 29, the fiery cradle of stardust. And as we let our eyes drift along these glowing intergalactic rivers of stardust and dark matter, our focus slowly narrows, down from the colossal sheets and filaments of the web, down to the heart of a single galaxy, where a massive ancient star is quietly burning through its final reserve of fuel, poised on the delicate threshold of a spectacular element-forging explosion, a supernova that is about to write the next chapter of cosmic history in a flash of brilliant, fading light. Let your own breathing settle into that same quiet stillness now, calm, unhurried, resting just before something enormous and gentle unfolds. For billions of years, this star has held a delicate agreement within itself. Two enormous forces, quietly negotiating the same careful balance, night after night, for longer than we can easily imagine. Neither one ever fully winning, neither one ever fully surrendering. Deep silence. Gravity presses inward, patient and relentless, always trying to collapse the star down into itself. And deep in its core, nuclear fire pushes back outward, just as steady, holding that pressure gently at bay. For most of its long life, these two forces meet in careful, silent balance. It is easy to think of a star as simply burning, but it is truer to think of it as holding its breath, slowly, for billions of years. A long, patient inhale, waiting quietly for the one exhale that will finally end it. Deep silence, but deep inside, iron has begun quietly gathering at the very heart of the star. Iron does not release energy when it burns. It only takes. It is the one element the star's fire cannot use to keep pushing outward, no matter how fiercely it tries. A strange, quiet irony. The very metal that would one day carry oxygen through your blood is the same one that finally silences a star. And so, for the first time in its long life, the star's inner fire has nothing left to give. From the outside, the star still looks calm, glowing steadily against the dark, as it always has. Nothing on the surface reveals what has already quietly begun far beneath it. But deep within, the agreement has already ended, and gravity, patient for so long, is finally unopposed. The entire core collapses inward in less than a second, faster than light could ever properly describe. Deep silence. And then everything reverses. The collapse rebounds outward in one impossible, blinding instant. For one brief moment, the star gives back everything it has ever quietly held. A final, generous release, after billions of years of patient, careful restraint. For a few days, this single dying star can outshine every other star in its own galaxy combined. Streams, knots, and delicate sheets of glowing gas are hurled outward at thousands of kilometers each second, scattering into the dark. An entire galaxy's worth of light, briefly matched by one small dying point in the sky. Deep silence. The calcium resting quietly in your bones. The oxygen filling your lungs right now. The iron carried gently in your blood. All of it was forged inside a furnace exactly like this one. We are not simply witnesses to the universe from somewhere outside it. We are its living stardust, gathered gently into a shape that can rest and breathe and listen to a voice like this one. Nothing separates you from that ancient explosion. You are its quiet, ongoing continuation, a fragment of that ancient fire, resting now, breathing softly, entirely at peace. Every heartbeat quietly depends on matter that once burned inside a distant, long-vanished sun, transitioning gently from the fiery, element-forging debris of the dying star to the absolute frozen silence of our system's outermost edge, where ancient leftovers of dust and ice gather in the dark, a sleeping comet waiting for its long journey toward the sun.